Welcome back, Defenders. We can start today's video by admitting Donald Trump doesn't know what he's doing. There's no plan. And at this point, I'm convinced Vladimir Putin himself doesn't know what he wants to do with this war over the next couple months. Do the Russians actually want a temporary ceasefire, or do they want to continue this war as normal? I don't think the Russians even know what they want to do. So for Ukraine, all they can do is react. React to Donald Trump, react to Vladimir Putin, and of course Ukraine doesn't trust the Russians, but they want to show their readiness for peace. This is why President Zelensky has offered this 30-day ceasefire. And this is another strong reason. Intelligence sharing and security assistance from the United States has been restored. This has been confirmed by Poland. Military aid has resumed, and the intelligence sharing is important. But Ukraine really needs air defense missiles and artillery shells. This is what the United States is still providing to Ukraine. So here's the statement from President Zelensky. He put this out yesterday. We must move toward peace, toward security guarantees, and we need to free our people. We are determined to work as quickly as possible with our partners. The key factor in our partners' ability to ensure Russia's readiness not to deceive but to genuinely end the war, because right now, Russian strikes have not stopped. Around 100 Shahed drones attack Ukraine each night. Missile strikes are regular. Some of our civilian infrastructure and ports have been hit, unfortunately including in Odessa. Russia blew up a grain ship and killed 4 people 2 nights ago. We continue our work on the diplomatic front to ensure that all necessary conditions are swiftly in place to apply pressure on Russia to achieve real peace. I am awaiting reports from the Ukrainian delegation that worked in Saudi Arabia, and we are preparing new tasks for our diplomacy. So the ball's in your court, Russia. What do you want to do? Additionally, out of this meeting in Saudi Arabia, I guess everything between the United States and Ukraine is okay now. Yermak says Ukraine is ready to sign this critical minerals deal. Trump still thinks he's getting $500 billion of the rare earth. And okay, if Ukraine still wants to sign it, I'll support it. It's President Zelensky's decision, but based on the actions of MAGA and Trump the last 2 weeks, I don't know, guys. I'm skeptical of this deal. And things are going to get more bizarre. Trump to invite Zelensky back to the White House following talks in Saudi Arabia. So I'm going to play the clip, and Donald Trump speaks for himself.
Is Zelensky invited back to the White House? Sure, absolutely. Is Zelensky invited back to the White House? Sure, absolutely.
This wasn't even 2 weeks ago. This was Friday, almost 2 weeks ago, and we're about to get a round 2 of whatever the hell this was. So yes, Zelensky has now been invited back to Washington, D.C., back to the White House to sign this mineral deal. And hopefully J.D. Vance is not in the room and nobody pesters Zelensky about not wearing a suit. This is stupid. So right now, according to Zelensky, the Russians are doing everything they can to drive a wedge between Ukraine and the United States. I'm convinced Donald Trump just likes Vladimir Putin, just likes Russia, and would rather be allied with Russia. But that's pretty unpopular here in the United States, and it's especially unpopular with all of our NATO allies. So even though Donald Trump is trying to break America away from the Western Democratic Alliance, it's pretty hard to do, and all of our allies, and especially Ukraine, are pushing back. Concerning the ceasefire, there's positives and negatives for both Russia and Ukraine. But the reason why Ukraine has resisted allowing for a ceasefire on the ground, Zelensky for more than a month is saying a ceasefire in the air and sea would be acceptable. But if the Russians are given a 30-day reprieve, it's Ukraine who has the advantage with FPV drones on the front lines. The way it works with the Russians now is they can't get a vehicle or supply truck within 20 kilometers of the front lines because it'll be spotted and destroyed by a Ukrainian FPV drone. So if there's a 30-day pause in the conflict, the Russians are going to flood the front line. They're going to try and get as many of their troops and equipment and supplies up to the contact line to prepare to break the ceasefire or allow the ceasefire to expire in 30 days. Ukraine then, across the entire front lines, will be at a tremendous disadvantage if their drone operators went silent for 30 days, allowing the Russians to inch forward, dig in, resupply, and then continue their attacks as soon as Putin wants to break the ceasefire. So the Kremlin is awaiting a U.S. briefing about the ceasefire plan. Witkoff is Trump's representative who is traveling to Moscow. And Putin said he supports the ceasefire proposal, but there are some nuances that remain to be figured out. So I'm going to play the clip, or I'm going to read it for you. And this is the real Putin. And I know it's the real Putin because he's not speaking in complete thoughts or complete sentences. More and more, Putin, when he talks, just kind of stutters and rambles and meanders through his thoughts. And I'm going to read this, but it doesn't really make any sense. And we're in favor, but there are nuances. What they are: first, what are we going to do with this section of the wedge in the Kursk region? If we cease hostilities for 30 days, what does that mean? That everyone who's in there will leave without a fight? Are we supposed to let them out thereafter? They committed massive crimes against civilians. Or the Ukrainian leadership will give us a command to lay down our arms, just surrender. How will it be? It's unclear. And how will other issues be addressed? At all across all line of contact. That's almost 2,000 kilometers. And there, as you know, Russian troops are advancing in almost all areas of contact. And there, too, conditions are being created for us to blockade entire fairly large units. So those 30 days are going to be used as, so that in Ukraine continue this forced mobilization in order to supply weapons there for newly mobilized units to be trained, or none of this will be done. The question then arises, what's it going to be? How will verification controls be handled? How we can make sure that nothing like this will happen. I didn't really get much from that. Putin at the moment is in Belarus visiting Lukashenko, and Lukashenko dismisses the U.S. ceasefire proposal, saying, Washington has no plan for the Ukraine war. This is the first time on my channel in 3 years, guys, but I'm going to say the words. Lukashenko is correct. Lukashenko is making a pretty good observation. So we're getting mixed headlines. Like if you go on Google News and Google ceasefire, you're going to see headlines that Russia rejects the ceasefire and Russia has accepted the ceasefire, because Putin didn't give a straight answer. And my guess is Putin now wants to engage in talks or negotiations with the United States to get more concessions somehow. So there is a sticking point, and the Foreign Minister Lavrov on Kremlin State TV does explain what Russia's biggest objection is. So first in this clip, Olga's going to talk, and then it'll be a clip of Lavrov speaking. This is from Russia Media Monitor. The title of the video is, Olga says Russia has no reason to agree to a ceasefire. I'll link the entire clip down below, but here's the important part. Once again, for those who still didn't understand this, Lavrov said that the presence of NATO troops in Ukraine, under any flag, in any numbers, and any capacity, even those posing as peacekeepers, is unacceptable and will be considered a threat. Let's listen to Minister Lavrov. Europe and the UK, they certainly want this to continue. The way they received Zelensky in London, after the scandal in Washington, is an indication that they want to raise the stakes and are preparing something to push the Trump administration back into some aggressive action against Russia. We are philosophical about this. We know what we're doing, but I am mostly amazed with the peacekeepers' obsession. If NATO expansion is recognized, at least by Donald Trump, as one of the root causes, then the presence of the troops from the NATO countries, under any flag, in any capacity on Ukrainian soil, is the same threat. So Russia just wants Ukraine to lose. They don't want any security guarantees, even if the United States isn't willing to do it. They don't want French troops, or British troops, or Dutch or Danish troops being stationed on Ukraine's soil to help protect Ukraine. They want Ukraine completely demilitarized, so that when they resume this war in the future, it'll be more easily conquered. So the United States strongly urges Russia to accept the Ukraine ceasefire proposal. But Donald Trump says he can pressure Russia, but he prefers not to. If Donald Trump put pressure on the Russians, this might screw up his aluminum deal. This might screw up the United States' future economic joint ventures that Trump keeps bragging about. Here are thoughts from Ambassador McFowell. As usual, even after Trump gave him multiple concessions, you can keep the Ukrainian land, Ukraine can never join NATO, and there won't be any US peacekeepers. Putin is still asking for more. Maybe the Trump team will learn that appeasement doesn't work. Time to start bargaining from a position of strength. I mean, I'm making these videos every other day, guys. Hopefully you continue watching them. But there's no coherence. There's no plan. I don't think Donald Trump has any idea what he's doing, and I don't think Vladimir Putin at this time knows what he wants to do. And Putin, if he accepts the ceasefire deal, he's going to get pushback from his own Z-patriots. Russian pro-war figures and military bloggers slam the United States ceasefire proposal. Pure betrayal and sabotage. Hardline Russians reject ceasefire proposal. Now, normally I would never share a tweet from the American Scott Ritter. He's a convicted felon and a terrible person. But Scott Ritter speaks for the Z-patriots in Russia. And here is what Scott Ritter has to say about this offered ceasefire. I've lost faith in the good faith of the Trump negotiating team. A 30-day ceasefire would be a boon to Ukraine, a chance to stabilize the front lines, to strip all tactical and operational advantages Russia has accrued through the blood and sacrifice of their soldiers. And once Ukraine recovers, then to sit at the table where a rejuvenated Ukraine rejects Russia's conditions for peace. Trump's team has not negotiated in good faith, and the fact that this proposal is offered after Ukraine carried out a massive strike against Moscow. Russia will reject this ridiculous proposal and hopefully escalate the violence to such a scale that the US will realize that there needs to be a realistic peace proposal agreed to in writing before any ceasefire takes hold, and that one includes the withdrawal of all Ukrainian forces from constitutional Russia. The Ukrainian troops can leave voluntarily or die. Trump isn't serious about peace, and Ukraine will reap the whirlwind as a result. So there's thoughts from a Trump voter and a Trump supporter, Scott Ritter. He doesn't think Trump is actually taking this serious. So what is happening? And I think that Donald Trump at the moment is distracted. There's some other things happening in the United States. And the only people at these talks with Ukraine were Waltz and Rubio. Witkoff was on his way to Moscow. So I think this 30-day ceasefire and then the resumption of military aid and intelligence sharing, this was Rubio and Waltz convincing Trump to do this. They're trying to help, even though Trump has the final say on everything. So it is interesting. What is the world going to say when Russia rejects this? Or maybe Russia will accept it and then they'll violate it within a week or 2 weeks or whatever. I do think Rubio and Waltz still want to help. They still know that the Russians are the bad guys, but their boss is insane and they're trying not to get fired. So Trump is distracted, and honestly, this is good for Ukraine and the NATO partners. U.S. trading partners hit back on steel and aluminum tariffs. At the moment, we're having a stock market crash here in the United States because of Donald Trump's disastrous economic policies and Trump pissing off all of our largest trading partners. Everything in the stock market is red. We're down over 10% from the 2-week highs, and things are going to get worse. For those of you who want more information about the finances, we're not going to get earnings reports from like the tech giants until, late April, early May. So we won't get guidance or reporting how bad things are economically as a result of these tariffs for another month and a half. So I do think the stock market is going to bounce back a little bit in the short term, but if Trump sticks to these disastrous policies, America is screwed. And all day, every day, all he talks about is tariffs and increasing them to 200%, 300%. These are all made-up numbers. And Elon Musk is also getting destroyed. The more distracted that Elon Musk is, the less he can help Russia and the less Elon Musk can hurt Ukraine. This is a billboard that was put up in Tottenham, northern London, the Fast and the Furor. And yes, anybody who owns a Tesla, your vehicle is now a target. People are going to vandalize them, they're going to destroy them, they're going to light them on fire. People around the world who either hate Elon Musk, hate Donald Trump, or hate Russia are now indiscriminately targeting Tesla vehicles. So to try and prop up or support Tesla, there was this insane publicity stunt at the White House where they turned the White House into a Tesla dealership for Donald Trump to purchase a car from Elon. And this is actually effing jaw-dropping that Trump at the moment is cutting necessary vital programs that Americans need and enjoy, and instead is spending his time advertising Tesla to help his unelected shadow president with his failing company. So there's so many memes online, guys. It's just dumb and dumber, these two. It's never going to get better. It's never going to normalize. These two have to be removed from office for this to stop. Otherwise, this is not going to stop the next 4 years. These men are mentally ill and incapable of operating normally. So Tesla's share price has collapsed. It hit a high of 480 and it's currently at 240. That's a 50% drop in 3 months. The market cap has been cut in half. So Elon Musk has destroyed $750 billion worth of shareholder value in 3 months for siding with Russia, and then everything he's done with Doge and cutting veterans' jobs. Like, it's incredibly tragic, guys. It's incredibly tragic as an American watching these two idiots destroy the federal government, destroy America's goodwill and reputation in the world. It's going to take decades for America to recover from this. So there is another story we should cover. Ukraine has pulled out of Kursk. After 218 days in Russia, Ukraine is ending their Kursk operation. Ukraine's military is going to preserve the maximum number of lives. This is what Zelensky is saying publicly. But I think Ukraine has pulled out of Kursk. 1, the pressure is immense. 2, cutting off intelligence sharing really undermined the whole operation. But I think that Rubio and Waltz in Saudi Arabia told Ukraine, you have to do this. Russia will never agree to a ceasefire as long as Ukrainian soldiers are still on Russian territory. So to go along with the ceasefire, Zelensky agreed to pull their forces out of Kursk. It wasn't a failure. The Kursk operation prevented Russia's success in the Donbass region. You can either fight on Ukrainian territory or you can fight on Russia's territory. But the Russians used resources. They lost soldiers. It was a huge propaganda defeat for them the last 7 months. So now that Ukraine made the decision to pull out of Kursk, Putin rushed in a military uniform to look like some brilliant military commander. Putin in camouflage visits the troops and orders the full liberation of Kursk. This video is absurd. Putin is in a military uniform. Let me share this with you. I can't believe that Gerasimov is still alive and hasn't been fired, but Putin did some stupid press conference, once again trying to look like a tough guy as Ukraine voluntarily withdrew from this territory. And yeah, he didn't talk about a ceasefire, he didn't talk about peace, he didn't talk about anything that Donald Trump and Elon Musk claim they want to be hearing from Ukraine. The Russians are not serious about peace. So we're getting the map updates, and once again, this is a planned withdrawal. Ukraine controlled a lot more territory 2 days ago, but they're pulling back to their own country. And you can see, the situation was getting alarming with the Russians crossing the border here into Sumy, trying to reach the supply road. So Ukraine has had a long time to fortify their border. It's mined. There's trenches dug. They're going to pull back to their own country, and we'll see if the Russians want to chase them. Here's a video I want to share with you from Natalka. These are Russian soldiers who have been ordered to throw away delivered food because it's been suspected of being poisoned. These are food cans that have been collected from volunteers and then donated to the front lines, but apparently there's been problems with soldiers being poisoned by food coming from volunteers, so Russian generals ordered all of this food destroyed.
Всем привет, ребята. Вот, смотрите, что у нас, блядь, в армии творится, нахуй. Это все, нахуй, на помойку выкидываем, нахуй. Люди голодают, блядь, а зато армия, вот, нахуй. Все выкидываем, вот. Это все, нахуй, на помойку, блядь. И срок, нахуй, даже не вышел их, блядь. А потому что приезжают генералы, начинают пиздеть, что, нахуй, дохуя. Жертвы у вас, нахуй. И вот приказ, нахуй, выкинуть это все, нахуй. Вы видите, нет, нахуй. Это, блядь, вот до Москвы не доходит, что...
So your options as a Russian soldier is either starve or be poisoned. Ukraine confirms Russian jet shot down by an Italian-French SAM-PT system. Sweet. Awesome. Patriot systems have shot down Russian jets, but this is the first time a SAM-PT has done it. Pretty cool. This maybe should be a bigger story than it is. You might have missed it. Russian captain involved in a cargo military vessel collision off the British coast has been arrested. And we get to check in on our friend Sal with what's going on with shipping. He put out a 23-minute video explaining it all in detail, but basically, an American military ship carrying jet fuel was rammed by a commercial cargo vessel being captained by a Russian. So it is kind of suspicious that this ship was hit, was T-boned, but the American ship wasn't moving. It was completely stationary, and this Russian ship just rammed into it. I can show you what the damage looks like of the cargo vessel that rammed this American military ship. It's not like a U.S. Navy ship, but it's a ship that supplies fuel for the U.S. military. And one person did die. It's shocking only one person died, but yes, I am skeptical that this was an accident, but it is the Russians and they are pretty incompetent. So I don't know what to make of this. There will be a proper investigation, and I think more people in America should be aware of this incident. Russian inflation hit a 2-year high in February. Russia's annual inflation rate jumped above 10% in February to its highest level in 2 years. Russia's economy is still screwed. We're in March, and I think economically, as long as Trump doesn't lift sanctions, things in Russia are going to get pretty bleak this summer. Rare Siberian tiger kills a park ranger in Russia's Far East. Really? There's a video, not of the attack, but of the mangled corpse of this Russian park ranger. Siberian tiger ate him. I just wanted to mention that story, guys. Russia's a very bizarre place. Let's get to the good news for Ukraine. Iceland doubles aid for Kyiv for their 2025 budget, and they're contributing 2 million euros to an energy fund. Thank you so much to the fantastic people of Iceland. Volkswagen is preparing to produce weapons for the German armed forces under the remilitarization of Europe. I just mentioned this in my video earlier this week, saying, why isn't BMW making armored vehicles for the German government? And I got the company wrong. It's actually going to be Volkswagen. Volkswagen's plant would be very suitable for defense production, according to Rheinmetall CEO. So it looks like civilian companies are going to partner with traditional military companies to increase production. Ukraine could really use some more armored vehicles, and if Volkswagen can start producing with Rheinmetall, that would be appreciated. Final clip I want to play for you is from Ukrainian journalist Zarina Zabriskie, and she was part of an evacuation of 6 children, ranging between the ages of 7 months and 14 years. These children and their parents and a grandmother were living in a basement for months, hiding from Russian drone and artillery attacks. So they had to be whisked away in the middle of the night, using an armored vehicle with electronic warfare jamming. The Russian drones are everywhere, trying to indiscriminately target and kill civilians. So this is Zarina's report. I want to play it for you guys.
We are right now driving in an armored vehicle. We have electronic warfare units 1 and another one is on the roof. And off we go.
Тут дрони, арта, каби, РСЗО, дрони висять, є тепловізори на дронах, і вони теж можуть нас бачити.
А жінка буде дітей трошки позасунути.
This family lives in the basement. There are 5 children. And they are now evacuating.
Одному 7, другому 3, 2, 1 і 7 місяців.
Страшно?
Да.
Багато дронів?
Так.
А що босиком? Що босиком? Дай лапку. Закриваємо.
Все. Ага.
Ну, слава Богу. Це буде добре.
Діма, Коля, Валік, Таня і Єва самомайська. Перший раз.
We're going basically through the field and it's very harsh on the kids who are getting car sick. It's very pale. They spend all this time in the basement. Less oxygen than desirable, and this trip is very hard on them. This is their new home.
Russia will be defeated. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.